And also, if you can recording in progress.
What was that, Adela?
Giselle, if you can mute people because I'm hearing
Yeah, I will.
yeah. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. Hi.
Hey. All right. Let's see. I think we're good to go. Everyone's saying hello. Hello, everyone.
Bueno.
All right. Giselle, I'll put you in charge of like muting people, etc.
Yes.
Throughout
no
it, unless
problem.
like they have a question or something like that.
Mhm.
All right. Oh my God. Hi, everyone. Well, we'll get started now. Hi, everyone. My name is Adela Hurtado, and I'm part of the leadership team here at Viva La Animación. And just to give you all a little background about us, we started just in May, and we've been really dedicated to helping empower Latin storytellers and animation and all that good stuff. And we're happy to say like our Discord group is growing every single day along with our Instagram followers, etc. And we're having like these amazing panelists come out to support us and to speak with us. And one of them is Miguel Baltazar. And before I get into who he is, I'll hand it over to Eric Hood, who is also part of the Viva La Animación leadership team. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Adela. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Hood, also one of the co-founders of Viva. I'm very happy to be here and very excited to be hosting this panel with you guys. I invited Miguel. This is our first time like meeting like virtually, like actually speaking to each other, but like I've known him, he knows some of my friends, and we just have a mutual following. I know we had a storyboard panel, was it last month or was it last month,
Yeah.
Adele? Yeah, with Ray. But I wanted us to have like another like storyboard panel. A storyboard is he's gonna go really deep. I'll let him explain like what he's gonna be doing. Um, I'm super excited for this. I got to see like some of his Lightbox panel last year. So Miguel's really, really good, really experienced. So if there's any other people interested in here in storyboarding, this is gonna be a really good panel for you guys. Just like a brief like little I wanted to do like a couple rules for the chat because it's kind of gonna be like an open Q&A while Miguel's drawing, but I don't want to like overwhelm. So if you guys can put your questions in the Q&A, not like directly in the chat, I think that would be super helpful for me and Adela to see everything in one spot so we're not jumping back and forth from the chat, trying to like copy and paste everyone's questions because I think we had that one time. So yeah, if you guys can keep your Q&A, your questions in the Q&A. There's a lot of people coming in, so I don't think we're gonna be able to do it. Maybe we can try and do like an open mic. I don't want to like have people talking over each other, so we'll just keep it in the chat. Does that sound fair? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just keep everyone muted, and then if you have stuff to say, just keep it in the comments. And then if you have questions, do it in the Q&A tab. And then yeah, without further ado, I will hand over to Miguel. Miguel, tell us about yourself and what you're about.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Adela, and like the whole Viva La Animación team. Can you guys hear me okay? I just want to make sure I'm not just like saying stuff and you guys can't hear and you guys are too polite to call me out. Perfect. So I see some familiar faces. I see Maria and I see Alejandra. Hey, you guys, thanks for coming. Oh man. Okay, now you really gotta like deliver. Okay, so first off, I just want to say thank you. So like Eric pointed out, Ray did a storyboard talk last month. And he discussed like a lot of like how to break in and stuff like that. And so like my task was like how can I try to like discuss kind of like I wanted to be like an evolution of what he had talked about, right? So he talked about the portfolio stuff, but now I just wanted to kind of dig into like the actual creation and storytelling of a specific sequence. And in the spirit of Halloween, that's coming up, I wanted to do like a kind of like a talk and a deep dive into like how to board a like horror sequence in case that's something you're interested in. But I also wanted to kind of be like as general as possible with like the principles and ideas that I have that hopefully can tie into not just horror but any other genre. And so we have about an hour, and also too, I'm flexible if like this bleeds over one. Also be mindful of people's time. Also, first off, you guys are here on a Sunday at 12. That's insane. I just want to give you guys props and kudos for that. I really appreciate it. and I'll just make sure I deliver on the goods. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just get started and share my screen, and then just show like, just give like a little intro, provide some helpful tips hopefully for folks, and then just get into the demo. And then I assume that like as questions come in, one of the folks on the team can like ask the questions and go in there. And then hopefully the demo shouldn't be too long. I say that and then it might go on long, but if there's time for Q&A, I'm more than happy to answer questions since I know you guys like are hopping on literally on a Sunday. So just want to say I'm very grateful and thankful for you guys to be here. So without further ado, let's get into it. Spoopy time. So you guys can see my screen here. You guys see a little SpongeBob here?
Yeah.
Or yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Miguel, you forgot to put on the hat.
Okay. I will. Oh yeah, hang on. Now that we're getting into it, right? It's only fair for me to put on my boarding hat. This is so stupid.
Yes.
Oh God.
Looking
Anyway, all right.
good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I need that. I
I
need that validation.
I also
Anyway.
forgot to mention I know Miguel you didn't pay me to do this, but I'm wearing a storyboard shirt. People can see.
No, stop. Oh my God.
Yes,
This
Oh,
is
I have
not.
that one too.
Miguel
I
has a shop. You guys should check out his Instagram page, and he sells these awesome storyboard shirts.
Oh my
Wait,
God.
Miguel, I
Eric.
have that one
He did
too.
not pay me to
That's
say that.
you.
I'm just
No,
doing it.
no, I did pay him. You can admit it. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
No,
you
I did
did
it.
not.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Oh, also, I'm so dumb. Like, so in case anyone didn't know, so I currently work at Disney Animation Studios. That's why I put on the hat. But also before that, I've been working in animation for about almost 6 years as a storyboard revisionist, and then I've been working as a story artist for about three, so half of that time. So like I'm still like 3 years into being a board artist, so it's kind of nice to kind of have that perspective. And then also that feature side. I came from TV as well, so I don't want to get into it too much because I want to get into the demo. But I just want to say hello, in spirit of Halloween. I just wanted to put this image on here, and then yeah, this is like my experience prior. And then pretty much I just want to put a caveat here. I'm not an expert in this stuff. This is just my personal philosophy, and I just wanted to kind of do a deep dive into what I feel um makes effective horror. I think this is the main goal for me to talk about, but also just to try to approach storytelling, right? Obviously, there's thankfully Ray provided a lot of like the kind of like showcasing your work, and he also talked about a little bit about like his philosophy on boarding. But I just want to go deep into just the storytelling part of it, and then hopefully from there, if questions generate regarding like shot choices and stuff like that. That I think that'll enrich the conversation even further because it'll like spark something in my head. So pretty much just about horror in general, right? I think there are two things for me that I think help to kind of simplify what I feel is effective about horror. And this is also a conversation regarding genre, right? Not just horror itself, but the genre, like different types of genres. So I think these are the two big components to me that I feel like make it effective. Because I assume all you guys watch like all kinds of horror movies, right? You watch like the ones that are like more art house, and then you watch the ones that are like a nice blend in between, and then you watch the ones that are just complete trash, right? Which are fun in and of itself. But for me, I feel like I was trying to think like what is it that makes it work? And I feel like these two components make it really work, right? When it's done right. There's the tension and there's the restraint. The restraint's a big one because I feel like a lot of horror films now have a tendency to try to scare the audience every minute. And I feel like I get the intention behind that, but I feel like the best horror films really just try to take their time in building up the suspense, which is the next component, right? So here I have like these two components, and restraint equals tension, right? And then also the tension is a part, it equals the restraint. These two go hand in hand, I think. And if this doesn't make any sense, just feel free to ask. But I feel like these two components really work because when I talk about restraint, I think some of the best scares are when you're imagining the threat itself, right? Like the first Alien movie, does a great job of utilizing its lack of like technology to its benefit to make the audience think, how does this thing look like? And then through the restraint, then you build the tension of like, will we see the creature? Like, how will the creature appear? And so on and so forth. So I think that's a really cool technique to use, right? And this is can apply to animation as well. or boarding. So then that's the suspense. I think like that's such a big part of it. And this was, I'm paraphrasing a quote that Tarantino had in regards to his scene in Inglourious Basterds, which also is a phenomenal scene to look at, even if it's not horror specific. I think just utilizing those techniques really make for a very effective scene to open the film. So it's suspense is like a rubber band. The more you stretch it, the more tension you build. Therefore, the louder the snap once it breaks. So in regards to horror, right? Once the tension is released from the setup, right, of the kind of scare you're trying to pay off for the audience, it's more memorable because you're holding back a little bit as opposed to providing little mini scares. You're setting up for one big scare that people are going to remember more. And I'm referencing Alien again because it's just such a phenomenal film. Where you're setting up like the alien, right? And then there's this scene with Dallas in like the hatch where they're trying to find it. And then there's like the little beep of like the radar. And then that scene itself is like, I don't know how many minutes, but like it's beeping and you're getting the reaction of people, and then you're getting him in the hatch, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. Um, that's where the restraint is, where you're holding back on the creature. Where is the creature? What's happening? And then this is applicable to any genre. I just want to understand, like, make you guys realize that, like, this stuff can apply to action or even comedy too, right? The tension, you can translate it to setup, right? And then the restraint is like holding back on the punchline until you have the setup properly laid in place, right? Because some of the best jokes require a good amount of setup. Otherwise, if you're just doing joke, um, it doesn't work. I think of Spider-Verse, the scene where Miles is about to jump off the building, but then he's about to jump off the building, but then he decides to go to a smaller building. And that setup just pays off that joke so well because you have that groundwork beforehand. And so then I'm just referencing these three movies. There's tons of other ones. I mean, Alien Romulus, I feel like did a really good job in trying to bring back that classical, those classical techniques of horror, I think. But for me, these three films just stand out to me because they utilize this technique so well. And this is just more of the foundation, right? Then obviously there's different types of horror films, right? You have body horror, you have like horror that has a lot of gore, slasher. Um, then you take the foundation, you can apply any sort of like specific subgenre of horror in it. But I just wanted to kind of provide the macro idea of horror, so that way hopefully this can be a helpful tool for you guys to use when you're trying to build a sequence. And so today, in the spirit of it, and also being Latino as well, I wanted to kind of have fun with the myth of the chupacabra. And again, depending on which region you're from, there's different interpretations of it, right? There's I did some research where like there's like an alien reptile version of it, and then there's like the other like wolf like canine like version. And so for me, I'm like, you know what, it's animation. Like let me just try to like bend the rules a little bit, and also just trying to like make this sequence a little personal. Like since in the spirit of horror, right? Like what are the things that scared me as a child or scare me now, right? It's dark corners and like the threat of like someone just like behind me at any second. It's crazy. So let me just save that. Also, just tip number one, always save, even if you haven't done anything. So here I just wanted to showcase quickly like my process. And I know this is probably something that Ray had mentioned before, but this is pretty much the whole sequence. Um, and it's very ugly, but like it just gets across my point. And I did this for the purpose just because I want to make sure I get the demo done um, efficiently. And then here I just quickly wanted to just draw out like versions of the chupacabra in a way that I could make it my own, but also pay homage to uh like the legend itself, right? But at the same time, it's like I'm being a little flexible with it. Obviously, there are questions to ask about like, well, the chupacabra like, attacks livestock, like that kind of stuff. But for me, I'm like, you know what? Like I just wanted to try to have fun with this sequence. And of course, any story stuff can be debated upon later. Um, and so that's what I have. So now I'm just gonna get started. All right.
Hey,
And
Miguel,
yes,
we had a question. What are your favorite horror movies?
oh mine. I mean, pretty much those three that I listed. More so those three like Alien, I love Aliens too. Um And then I'm just trying to think of other ones that I saw recently. Get Out is also like I think that's like the most recent like classic for me in my opinion. Get Out I think utilizes these things very well. And then it's those pretty much those three that I put on there are great. I had other ones. I had a lot of them on there like Jaws. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great one. That one's a phenomenal one actually, because that one like you don't see who the actual like chains, you know, you don't see Leatherface until like 30 minutes, 40 minutes into the movie. So it's another example of like you know who the characters are, right, in the pop culture. But when you see the movie itself, you're like, wait a second, when is this guy showing up? And then when they show up, it's more effective because you realize, oh man, like they really built him, they really built this threat up in a way that's really effective. Even in Psycho too, um, you know, the threat of like Norma Bates, right? You don't really see her until like pretty much like the very end of the movie. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, it is such a phenomenal like reveal. It's insane. Like I remember genuinely being terrified, and it's a movie from the 60s. Like there's cheesy elements to it obviously with like the technology, but like the storytelling is just on another level. But those are mine, those three that I listed, and then there's other ones that I feel like are really good. The Shining is a phenomenal one too, because it's the supernatural element. So there's different like kinds of like horror movies that I feel like hit the mark. And I think for me it's because of the filmmaking. The filmmaking really helps to elevate the genre. Because you take other filmmakers and you have them direct the exact same movie, it's like going to be a completely different experience. So hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you.
All right, cool. And then so what we'll do now, so I'm gonna start the demo, which is why you guys are here. And so you guys can just ask questions while I'm doing it. I think that'll be fine, and then I'll just roll with it. Because that's what I did with Lightbox, and it seemed to work pretty well. So we'll just do that. All right, let's do it. I got my hat on, and I have how many people watching me? I don't even know. It's okay, whatever. I got this.
Like 45. Should I have not told you
No pressure.
that?
Um, it's getting on here.
I've
Okay,
seen you
anyway,
do this
cool.
at Lightbox. You're
No,
totally
that is
capable
totally fair. It's
in
been
front
a
of a
minute.
live crowd with everyone's faces looking at
That
you.
is true. What am I even saying? Anyway, all right, cool. I'm just joking. All right, cool. So you saw the panels and pretty much just sit back and enjoy. And then if questions come up, just feel free to ask. And this is great because like what I think the Lightbox demo really demonstrated that like, you know, it's not gonna be perfect the first time. And it's also nice just to see someone's thought process as they're doing it.
Yeah, I was like, think of this kind of like an Instagram live when you're like watching people draw.
Yeah,
That's kind of like
exactly.
what the Lightbox one felt like. That's why I really liked it.
Cool. No, that's perfect. That's what I wanted to do. And so I'm using Photoshop, but again, like the tool doesn't really it doesn't matter what type. Like if I was using Storyboard Pro or Procreate, the principle is still the same. Um, so this is just what I use because that's what I use at work and that's what I use primarily. But I use Storyboard Pro as well. So don't be afraid if you're like, I need to use Photoshop. It doesn't matter. And so another element too that I brought up, which was with horror, right? You have like the tension and the restraint. Now it's like, how do you apply that? So this is more in terms of like the supernatural horror elements. And the thing that makes that scary is that no matter where you go, the threat is always there. That's kind of like the secret sauce with supernatural horror is that other types of horror, like an Alien and even Texas Chainsaw, you're stuck in a location. You can't escape it. But with supernatural horror, it's you can go anywhere, but you can't really escape the threat because it's not necessarily like physical, you know, it's spiritual, it's supernatural, cosmic. So that's the thing I want to emphasize here is like I'm treating the chupacabra as like this like supernatural being that just appears out of nowhere, which I'm applying that rule in terms of the folklore or like the legend. It's probably different, but that's what I'm deciding to do for this specific board. All right, so and also too, darkness helps a lot, right? Like the element of darkness helps to provide that restraint visually in the sense that you don't really see the threat. So here I'm just drawing this door and then I'm gonna provide specifics. So this is like a kid's room. So maybe like they play some kind of sport or something. You know, they probably have like posters or whatnot. And
Someone's
again, like
curious to
yes,
see how you set up your Photoshop.
That's a great question. So pretty much how I have it, and actually this is something I was gonna bring up here. So there's this link to a actually this is great. I will bring this up and I can send it in the chat. So I set my Photoshop files like this. So in the thumbnail, I had the aspect ratio set up. Let me see if I can bring it up in the chat. This is good. I'm just gonna text it I'm just gonna send it to everybody, everyone in the meeting. So this sheet really helps because it sets up your Photoshop files perfectly for aspect ratios. So I set it up that way. So my file is an 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio, which is like more square like this, or like less CinemaScope. And so if you look at the image size, it is 1920 by 1038 at 300 dpi, which is a little high, but you can set up at 200. It should be good. And that's how I set up my files, right? So I input these specs, and then that's pretty much it. And then from there, I have this background. So I pretty much filled in the paint bucket tool with like a gray, and I had this gradient. Where is it? Oh, right here, right? So I can just do that. That immediately helps to make your storyboard files look very I don't know, like I guess more finished. You can do that in Server Pro as well, which is really cool. So that's how I set it up. So I sent that to everybody because I feel like that's really helpful to like. And if you scroll down, because there's like the 5K, 4K, just go to like 1080p, and as soon as you see like the 1920, like you'll see that it's categorized by different aspect ratios. That's another element too that you can play with, is like the different types of aspect ratios, because that helps to also evoke a different type of feeling, right? And so I chose this aspect ratio because I wanted it to feel like more confined in a sense, because white's CinemaScope just wouldn't have fit for me. I feel like aspect ratio wise, like the 1.85, which is like the Academy ratio, it's a little more like confined, and I wanted to evoke that in this moment here where we're gonna see like this kid in his room like scared out of his mind, right? Or like starting to get a sense of a threat. And also it grounds it more. When you have that aspect ratio, it kind of grounds more, and like more dramas and like comedies kind of have this aspect ratio. Rarely do you see comedies have like the widescreen or even horror. So but it's up to you. It's based on taste. All right, so take that.
Miguel, someone
Yes.
asked, as a board artist in the industry, what do your day-to-day tasks look like?
Yeah, so pretty much what I do. So at the studio, my day-to-day pretty much goes like this. So like if I'm not working on a sequence, I'll get another sequence, right? So I'll get issued by my director, meaning that I will get assigned a sequence, and it doesn't matter. It really depends on the day-to-day. So I'll get assigned a sequence, I'll get pages, right? And then they'll be like, here are the pages, here's the job, and then here's like what you do for the sequence. And then from there, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll go back to my desk, I'll read the pages like 20 times, try to figure out what the big like, rhythms and pacing of the sequences. And then from there, my day-to-day would just after that would just be like I'm just working on the sequence for like about a week. So usually I get about a week to work on sequences. And it doesn't matter if it's like a 1 page or like 3. Usually it's about a week, or they're flexible, depends. A lot of times I'll be like, I'm stuck on this. I'll go to my friends' cubicles and ask them questions or show them my sequences. And it's nice because um, it's a collaborative medium. Even storyboarding, even if I'm boarding by myself or I'm like reading by myself, I'll then ask questions like, hey, like I'm stuck on this part. Like, can I show you like what I boarded for this part? And this is where I feel like it's important to collaborate and like get feedback from people. So that's a big one. And then for the most part, like at the studio, sometimes like day to day would be like, hey, I'm gonna go get lunch with friends, or like sometimes sometimes it's like, oh, I can't think of anything. I'll just talk to people and I'll just like take my mind off things. But most of the time, like even when I'm working at home, I'll just be like trying to like think about the sequence, I'll take a day to think about it and I'll try to board it out quickly. And then I'm just boarding it. Then I'll check in with my supervisors um to like see like, hey, is this even good? And then they'll be like, oh, actually, yeah, it's fine. And then like, okay, cool, I'm less stressed now. And then oh, hang on. Oh, there we go. And then afterwards, then I'll just pitch the sequence and that's it. So hopefully that answered your question, but for the most part, that's pretty much what I do. So like on a weekly basis, like, I'll get the sequence, I'll work on it, I'll pitch the next week, and then I'll get notes back from my supervisors, and then that's how it goes. You get notes from people all the time, and it's okay. Like it doesn't mean that you're not good. It's just that, especially in feature, the story's always changing, right? So you're always having to roll with the punches, and so a lot of times they just need to see the thing before they go about it. At the studio, there's like events too that happen. A lot of times, like, hey, there's free ice cream. I'm like, what? Say less. And then you get the ice cream and it makes you feel good. And then you go back to your desk and you cry. Because you're like, I still gotta work on this now. Oh, and then you're thinking about like, oh man, what are my ancestors thinking about me right now? They're just looking at me at my cube watching Fortnite streams at my desk. But then I'll figure it out. That's just needless to say is that I don't have everything figured out on the day to day. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's stressful. Um, so anyway, hopefully that answered your question. It's fun though. I love it. But sometimes, you're like, it gave me this action sequence now. Do I know this? And most of the time it's yes. That's just how it goes as an artist. Sometimes you're like questioning yourself, but that's just how it goes. But anyway, so pretty much what I have so far is like, actually, let me do this. Let me do that.
Yeah,
So I'm
Miguel.
not adding layer. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just gonna say, someone asked before you start the boarding process, do you create the character designs? And if so,
Yeah.
how finished they are? Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously for demo purposes, I just wanted to be quick about it, right? But usually I'll take about like for personal work, right? So I'm talking about like the actual professional work. With personal work, I usually take about like a week to try to figure out the designs, and I'm not precious with it. I try to make sure it depends. If you want to go all out with the sequence, like 1 or 2 weeks, but I try to keep it loose, and again with storyboarding, like the designs are always going to change and whatnot, but I usually try to design the characters beforehand. And then it depends. It goes either way. Sometimes I figure out the story first, I write it out, or sometimes I just try to figure out the characters first and then I write the story. In this case, I didn't write the story, I just kind of had it in my head already. But I try to have like like an overall idea of how to go about it. But yeah, usually I'm designing the characters first. Um, Even as I'm like kind of drawing this, like here, I'm like this kid, it would be cute for this kid to have big ears. And then I just go in. I didn't really draw the character here, the kid, but I just wanted to figure out the chupacabra part because that would be like the big payoff. Um, so yes, usually for personal work, yes, but the studio, no. You have character designers figuring that stuff out, um, because that's their job. And then once we get the character designs, then then we just go off of that. But yes, and that's the fun part. I think that's a good thing too with storyboarding is that you can like cross over to different disciplines. So especially with character design, if anyone's interested in character design, um, like it really like goes hand in hand, I think. So being able to have those sensibilities as a designer, even if you're not a designer, I think it helps a lot. Because then when you present your portfolio, right, like they'll be like, oh, okay, like this person has the sensibilities at least to design for animation, but like at the end of the day, you're not your job's not to design, but at least if you have like the sensibilities, that helps a lot. That's a great question. These are good questions, by the way. So thank you for asking them.
Someone else asked, what's a good way to practice perspective for storyboarding?
Aha. So that's great. Just like one of the fundamentals, right? So like here, like the horizon line is like about here. Don't ever have it in the center if you're trying to make a point, but usually it's either like in the lower third or in the upper third, the horizon line. Um and for perspective, for storyboarding, it's a little easier. You can get away with it a bit more. Because you don't have to be precise, but you at least have to indicate the angle. It's all about clarity. So for example, it's clear that like this is like lower to the ground and the grid lines help to at least indicate um like where we are in space. And actually, let me add like a little carpet actually here. Actually, wrong layer. Draw on the same layer. Okay, cool. All right. So it's just eyeballing it, but at least making sure that it's like somewhat accurate to like where you're trying to go in terms of like where you're positioning the camera. Um, and I'll demonstrate that like as I go through the boards, like you'll see the different angles that I try to go about. But I will answer that question through the example here. But it's a little easier, it's a little more flexible. Bridget Underwood, Bridget Underwood, she has they have a great uh like guide to perspective for storyboarding. It's really phenomenal. Um, and that one they tell you about like because it's different from perspective for design because it has to be more accurate. With storyboarding, it's like you have to get the gist of it. Yeah, so pretty much here what I have so far. And these are great questions. Keep asking them. Um, so pretty much what I have so far.
Do you want to do the next one, Eric?
Yeah, Delaney's asking, do you have any tips for networking at Lightbox?
Oh wow,
They graduated in 2021 and
cool,
are trying to get back into the swing of things at the
awesome. Well,
convention.
hi Delaney. I remember you from Island Magic and so on. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. That's a great question. I think networking is it's so stressful. I don't treat it as networking. I treat it as like who's a cool artist that I want to talk to, and then let's just try to talk and chat. I feel like just finding those artists that you at least look somewhat inviting to like approach and not feel nervous about. I think that's the way to go about networking. Because when I was doing that too, it was so stressful. Because I'm like, for me, my stress was I didn't want for them to perceive me as like, oh, I'm just asking them for favors. Because I think that's always a big stress for many folks is like you want to be able to genuinely talk to these people, right? Because you're genuinely interested in it, but it's always hard because the networking part makes it feel like transactional, which I'm not personally a fan of. So I think just being able to just chat with people and be like, hey, I like this artist, pretty much like how you did with me. I think that was a great way to just like, hey, like I follow you on Instagram, or like, hey, I admire your work. I just want to say thank you for just doing your work and stuff. I'm interested in pursuing animation as well. And I'm just eager to learn. I'm just eager to want to learn. I feel like doing it like that, where you're just wanting to learn and just genuinely want to get information, for your, just to, help along your way. I think that's helpful because people in animation, at least professionals, are more than likely happy to help you because they came from your position. Um, so hopefully that helps. I just say don't think of it technically. Just think of it as like, okay, like who's someone cool that I want to talk to, or someone that I admire on Instagram, and just be able to say, hey, I admire your work. Um, and then from there the conversation comes up. Sometimes some people are gonna be very like interested in wanting to know about you, and sometimes it might take a little longer. That's okay, everyone's you know, uh everyone has like conversations differently. So hopefully that helps. And then yeah, just like take it, one person at a time. Just talk to one person and be like, okay, that conversation went well. Then just find the other person, but um don't stress about it too much. Hopefully that hopefully that helps. Because it's tough out there, especially like since like me personally, like I always get scared talking to people because I always feel like they're gonna be like, get the fuck out of my face. And then I'm like, okay, sorry, sir or miss. That's just me. But yeah, no, most people are really nice. I think it's just like, you just got to be like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to talk to this person because I genuinely want to meet them. Let's do it.
And just to do a little plug for Viva, we're going to be doing a
Mhm.
mixer
Ah,
on the
yes.
25th, on October 25th. Maybe you'll be there, Miguel. And Eric and Abby,
Oh,
who's our co-lead for the Los Angeles team, will be doing that as well. So yeah, stay tuned on our Instagram and Discord
okay,
for more
cool.
updates on that.
Awesome. That's great. And I think just those kinds of events like that are really good because they're more casual and it's like everybody's just wanting to connect. I think that's the thing. Where it's like not convention specific. It's just, hey, let's just chat. Let's just talk and have a good time. That's good. I'm glad you brought that up. Great. This is so good, you guys. Hopefully people are benefit, um, just reaping the benefits of this information. It's really good.
Kathy asks, what do
Mhm.
conversations with directors look like when you're reviewing thumbnails and story beats?
That's freaking awesome. I love you guys are so smart. So it depends. So it depends on the person. So if you like reviewing thumbs, usually with the director, we usually just go over the pitch. So when it comes to like actual work in progress of your sequence, I usually check in with my heads of story, and they're like the overseers of the story artists. I don't know. That sounded very medieval, but like pretty much they're the ones that are in charge of the story team. So usually when I check in with thumbs or like even check in rough passes, usually like I'll check in with them because usually the director, they're in charge of everything. They're in charge of not just story, they're in charge of layout, design. And with heads of story, they're like specifically focused on story, which is great. So usually I check in with them. But with directors, I'll just pitch, I'll get issued and then I'll pitch the week after. And that's when the director usually is involved in seeing it. And then of course it depends. So sometimes the director will be like, hey, actually, I changed my mind on this. But usually I don't check in stuff with them. Um, it just works differently in feature just because it's like the feature, it's like everything. Whereas in TV, like you can check in stuff with directors constantly. Um, and I will say like in TV, like I was working mainly as a revisionist, so like I never had a chance to work in that capacity as story artist, but as a revisionist, I would constantly check in with the director and be like, hey, like, is this good? Like, is this okay? So yeah. But in feature, it's a little different. Hopefully
Um,
that's helpful.
Eileen is asking, any tips on how to improve draftmanship for storyboards?
Yes, that's a great question. Actually, when we get to like drawing the kid, I think that's gonna be a good place to show it. Because that was something because at Disney I went through the trainee program and pretty much I was like a student there where I was being mentored by a specific story artist there, and so I learned a lot about draftsmanship because that was something I wanted to improve upon, especially faces. Because that's like the big thing that you see in a board, right? Is like how is a character emoting and how do you make that clear? And it's through the draftsmanship. But yeah, no, that's a great question. I will definitely show that. So okay, so I'm gonna pick up the speed here. I'm doing a crazy like camera move here just to kind of like set the tone for the sequence. So I'm just reusing panels. So I'm duplicating panels because you can't really manipulate the same layer. Sorry, not panel, layer in Photoshop. I guess that's one of like the cons about Photoshop in general, but for me it just feels a little easier. Hang on, there we go.
On that note, Carla asks,
Yes.
would you say making your drawings clean is a priority, or is it better to just be quick and clear?
Quick and clear. Yes. And that's it's a weird description because like quick and clear, it's like there has to be this balance. Um, I say like for example, like here, like I drew this shadow. I could have done it way cleaner, but I think for me it was quick, but it's clear that there's like this shadow with like these ears on there, right? That's it. I think that's the thing that I think oversees clean because part of it is because of the schedule. So a lot of times you're like, shoot, I have to get this done. So it's finding that balance and it's through economy. So it's like instead of drawing like, oh, I'm drawing like the face and I'm drawing this and I'm drawing that, I'm drawing this and I'm, like right? Like you're doing like rendering and that, right? Like
So
oh, and the hair, right? But it's like pretty much like whoop, like that. That's the difference is like you're just trying to get like the essence of it. So that's quick and clear, but the other one clean, it's like it just takes longer and a lot of times it may not be as clear because you're adding clutter. you know, you let layout and like animation take care of that because they will oh my lord. Because then they will be the ones to figure out the details. There we go. There.
Someone said that I don't see your thumbnails on your screen while you draw. Do you have them to the side for reference, or are you
I have
drawing from the screen?
I have them right here.
Okay.
I still board on paper or a thumbnail on paper. It's just way easier for me. Because I can just thumbnail out really fast. So I'm just looking at it to the side as I'm doing it. I don't know. It's just I don't know. It just makes the process a lot simpler for me. You can have them up on your computer. It's just whatever works for you, but this works for me. It's just I just board it out like that. All right. And this part's gonna be a little wonky, but that's okay. I'm just trying to, of course, like then I'll do like another pass of this and like figure it out there. But okay, cool. See, like that's fine. And then I'm just gonna redraw the shadow here. Again, it's like it's not gonna be perfect, but just trying to make it clear. And then maybe I can have some, yeah, let's just make it worse. By worse, I mean scarier. Yeah, because as a kid, I would just be terrified. Like, I'm like, there's these creatures out to eat me while I'm sleeping. Like, just leave me alone. So I'm just trying to manifest this kind of childhood fear in this sequence. Because that's part of it too. It's like when you're boarding something and you're trying to come up with ideas, just try to find like personal things, right? And then obviously the metaphor is the, you know, the characters and things being executed differently. But like, you know, there's something that you know, like a story that you're trying to share that's personal and like you want to fictionalize it. Like that's I feel like where the best ideas come about is like through like very like personal, vulnerable spaces. Um, so like that's something that I feel like could be that because people ask like how do you come up with ideas and whatnot? It's like you just try to first dig into like something that you're trying to tell, and then you can just execute it differently after.
Miguel, so
Mm-hmm.
Alejandro, I'm gonna kind of rephrase this question because I think I know what you're asking here. Miguel, could you give any insight to like when art books come out, like for movies and stuff? Do they ask the artist if they can feature your storyboards or work in there, or do they just like kind of pick you?
That's a great question. So I have yet to be asked that. Um, I honestly I don't know. I don't really know. I think they'll let you know. But I could be wrong. I'm not sure. That's a good question though.
Yeah, I don't think I have any of the ones you worked on.
No, the only movie I've worked on currently is Wish. But I don't have anything on there.
I thought
Because
you
I was
worked on Strange World too, no?
just for about a week.
Oh,
It
okay.
was anything crazy. It was like for revisions and stuff. But for Wish, like I don't think there was anything on there. But yeah, I think I assume that they'll um like ask, you know, it's like, hey, like, can we use this? Or who knows, maybe they don't. I don't know. I think that's a question that I could answer probably later once I figure that out. That's a great question though.
Yeah.
This is my question. How do you work on something for like a week? Like when you what you just mentioned, like what does that mean?
Oh, it just means that you gotta work really fast. So a lot of times, like, can you get this? So like, pretty much, that's just how like it's pretty much like the schedules are getting very crunchy, and so a lot of times, like, you'll get issued a sequence that's like a page to 3 pages, and you just have that time to work on it. So it just means that you gotta be able to read the script quickly and be able to start to thumb stuff out quicker, but not letting that get in the way of the thinking. So like I need a day to think about the sequence, right? So I can try to plan out how the sequence is going to play out. And then on the next day, that's when I go in and I start to rough it out. Um yeah, so it just means that it's just you just gotta be able to really just like even before you even get launched, right? Like you're reading the sequence, you're just like immediately trying to just read the sequence. And then you're like already kind of like thumbnailing in your head. So you just have to like prioritize You just have to prioritize like the time that you have to work on something.
Don't they, isn't it that you have to work on a feature like for a certain amount of weeks to be credited, or is that
Yeah,
just
it's about like I forget because I just worked on Zootopia 2 for like 3 weeks, so it's about 3 weeks where
okay?
yeah. So it's a good question. So because sometimes you work on something for like a week or two, you don't get credited. So that's just how it works. There's like rules to it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was my case on Strange World. Like I helped out on it, but I wasn't credited just uh because I only worked on it for so little. That's okay because sometimes you're like, ah, it's only a week, you know. But at some point you're like, okay, guys, cough up that credit, you know. I need that for my IMDb. But yeah, no, these are
At
great
least you get
questions.
paid though, yeah.
Yeah, it just helps because then you can be like, I worked on this, right? And then you could put that on your website, you can put that on that. So
Hmm.
it's good. All right, I'm just gonna try to move a little quicker here.
Ted, since I feel like roles are typically looking for sequences in comedy, action, etc., what are some of the best examples of animation to check out to reference horror, feature and TV, but preferably feature? Lol.
Oh, gotcha. Oh yeah, let me think about that for a bit. It's a good question.
Bill, I love how you read the lull.
Uh, that's so
Yeah.
trying to think. In terms of horror, um, let me think on that a bit. Because I know there's animated films that utilize horror like moments and like techniques, but I'm trying to think of like a specific. I know there are probably people here who like are more attuned to examples, so someone puts it in the chat, that'd be helpful too. Because I know there's examples. I mean, I feel like Over the Garden Wall is like I think the example that comes into my mind. Like there are some truly horrifying moments in that. Um and like for example, like the beast, like you don't really see the beast until like the very end, and you only see it for like a split second. It's the only example I can think of. And even I was rewatching Arcane too, and Arcane is like more action heavy, but they do utilize some horror elements, especially in episode 3. If anyone hasn't seen that episode in the show, it's incredible. And there are some like really like like horror esque elements in there.
I was watching an interview with Jordan Peele when he directed Nope, and he was saying like
Hmm.
best way to like do horror is like the fear of like the unknown. So I think when
Yeah,
you brought up
exactly.
the garden wall, like we don't know who the beast is, and it's like you still don't really see a big reveal of him. So that
Yeah,
what is that thing that's like haunting me or like coming after the character? That's like
yeah.
it builds a really good fear.
That's beautiful. No, that's beautifully said. It's pretty much what I think horror is. It's not knowing exactly how this horrifying act is going to play out. Um, and again, it's through the filmmaking and how you execute that. So that's why I said like if you can hold on that moment for a long time, um, it's gonna make whatever payoff that you have way more terrifying. And just I think it's even like just not showing the thing, just like showing the aftermath or just showing like people's reactions to it is way more horrifying than actually seeing it. Because then I feel like nowadays we're kind of desensitized to these things, so we're like used to seeing very horrific stuff. And so even just the simple like I was watching Alien in this scene where two characters die towards the end. Spoilers, I mean that's Alien. But like you don't really see how they die until Ripley comes in and sees the aftermath, and she's just horrified. And like I get chills every time because I can only imagine what she just saw. Because you just like your mind just imagines something way worse. So I think that's the beauty in uh just restraint yourself. And I feel like Over the Garden Wall does a great job because it's very on the surface level, it feels very young, but it's actually very it plays mature. It plays more mature, which is awesome because that's what makes it so memorable, is that the style of it helps to subvert what it's trying to say later on. Like it subverts the expectations of the audience saying like, oh, that's gonna be like a cute little, you know, Halloween adventure, but it's like no, like it's literally about relationship between brothers and like forgiveness and like all these other things and grief. And it's just so well done. So like that's, and again, I apologize. I need to think of other examples, but those are the two I can think of in the moment.
Some people were saying like Courage the Cowardly Dog
Oh,
and
duh. Oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's
Well, with that one too, it's like it's an example of like you actually see the horror and it's like terrifying. Like it's actually like really gross. Um, it's just a very creative show, in that, like for example, the slap guy is like so ingrained in my mind that that's like the only time I've ever had a moment in animation where like as a kid I closed my eyes because I was that terrified. And that's more so it plays on the technique, like the fact that the guy's lo-fi, there's something about him being rendered and like very like crappy CGI that just makes it worse. I don't know why.
Or I like that. What is it, that fetus thing that's like you're not perfect?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but like that one, that show does it so well. I think that's another great example because they're just like showing you the horrific stuff. Like they're pushing the boundaries on what, kid animation can do. Um, but even then, like the tension, like when Courage is on his computer and he's like typing up like questions to ask the computer, like you're in suspense because now you're wondering like will this computer solve stuff, or the computer is giving information that's like this thing can't be stopped, or like this you have to do this, and you're like, oh my God, like how can Courage actually do this? Um, and even the characters too, like the characters used to Samuro, like just like these old like this old innocent couple that now you're questioning like what horrific stuff can be done to them. And it's just that part of it is just so, and then this you're going back to it, Aaron, like the unknown. Like you don't know what's gonna happen to Courage, you don't know what's gonna happen to them, and that's what makes it scary. Yeah. So right now I'm trying to,
oh
yeah,
my
this
gosh,
part.
that looks so cool, Miguel, the way it's like playing right now.
Oh,
Like
really? Okay. So here, like so here what I'm doing is and actually Maria, I remember she really helped me out with this. So like for parts where like you're only moving the thing up and down, you don't have to duplicate the layer. You can just move it. And when you're adding the layer, it's visibility. But then when you have to like actually like for example rotate it, unfortunately I have to then like actually like if you look at the layers here, I actually have to duplicate that because the transform doesn't work. So if you're only moving things from like for example like left to right, you don't have to duplicate the layer. You can just add a like I'll show you here. So like if I'm doing this, right? It's still these layers. I add it, layer, and I move it, and I don't duplicate it. It only works. This is what I figured out at the demo. I'm like, no, you only do it when it's like X and Y axis. You can't do it Z axis. If you're trying to like zoom in, you can't do that either. So that was just something to bring up, which is helpful.
Is this something you can only pull off in Photoshop, or could you also do this in Storyboard Pro?
Storyboard Pro is way easier. So in Storyboard Pro, you have the camera tool, right? You could just do that.
Okay, yeah.
But it's just I think this is just it's nice to show this on like the very like like on the simplest level. Like you can do a camera move like that. But for Server Pro, you have the benefit of having the camera tool, which is really good. And even then with the camera tool and Server Pro, you can like draw like almost everything in one giant panel, and then the camera you can just move it. That's the beauty of it. Um, and I'm just showing this just to show like at the basic primal level of like boarding, like this feels like the closest to it. And so I'm just showing that just so we like in case someone only has access to Photoshop, they can do it. Um, and this is my way of doing it. So like like there's probably other like more efficient ways, but for now, like this is how I go about it.
people
Oh
are
snap, we're
loving
almost
your camera angles, just saying your how you play with the camera, Miguel.
oh cool. No, thank you. But I also wanted to bring that up too, just in case anyone was interested in like seeing how it's done. No, but thank you. I was just trying to go for like the scene starting off, right? Where you have this thing and like the tone of this thing is going to be very askew to what you're expecting, right? Like this kid's world is literally like going to turn upside down in this sense. And then here I know we have like a few minutes, but I can get a few more panels done, and I can answer that one question that
Keep going
What
as long as you
people
need
have.
me.
Yeah, I was gonna
Hey,
say, I
whoever
know
wants to
we
stick
timed,
around,
no
hey,
time
I'm
limit.
good.
I put
Oh.
it in for, I know we talked about doing like an hour, but didn't your Lightbox panel go longer?
I think it was an hour, just because it had to be an hour. But here it's more
Well,
flexible.
we don't have to be an hour.
No.
I just put it in for you. If you have to go an hour,
Oh,
Miguel, or if you can stay longer, that's
Yeah,
fine.
go ahead. Take
I
your.
okay. So
You do
whoever
have
wants to stick
another
around,
question.
yes, go for it.
Nikki's asking, what's your opinion on Dutch angles for horror? When is too much? When is it too much?
That's a great question. I think it's too much when you use it a lot. I mean, that sounds obvious, but I think saving it for a specific moment, I think is when you should use it. I think when you're like, for example, if you're setting up your story, right, and the story's playing normally, right, where it's like right now the character's just going about their day and nothing's gonna happen yet. You know, when you're saving it for that specific moment where the turn of the scene happens, I feel like that's when, if you want to make that choice of using a Dutch angle, then you can't, because then when you see the Dutch angle happen, the audience is going to read that as like, uh-oh, something bad is happening. So I feel like that's when you can use it, and then only using it sparingly. Because if you use it too much, that's, it starts to play out. But also too, Brian De Palma uses that a lot. Like in Mission Impossible, he literally has scenes. He has a scene with Tom Cruise and one guy where like they're at this restaurant and it just plays in Dutch angles. So it's all a matter of taste, right? So it's up to you. But I would say like if that's not your goal is to be flashy, like you can just restrain yourself and hold it for like a moment in the story that flips, right? Because then you're visually telling the people, hey, this story is about to get crazy, like, or this is different now. Because you're setting up a pattern of shots, and then once you break that pattern, that's when people are like, wait, WTF, what's going on? And that's where people get engaged. So you're not doing it through dialogue, you're not doing it through editing, you're doing it strictly, well, you're doing it through editing as well, but you're doing it through your shot choices. So I would say that's when you use it. And it's too much when you're just like, if someone's having coffee in the morning, you have a Dutch angle, like that's too much because that doesn't prompt the Dutch angle, right? It looks cool, but you're giving the audience the idea that something is going to happen. Like there's something uneasy about it. It's only like, say if the coffee that person's drinking ends up being poisoned, then you're telling the audience, hey, I gave you a clue literally in this Dutch angle, right? And like on a second viewing. So that's that's my philosophy, but it's a matter of taste and other people have like different opinions on it. But I feel like just in terms of restraining yourself and like really just not letting yourself kind of overpower the story, then I think that's the way to go about it. Hopefully that helps. All right, I'm drawing this little kid right now. Okay, so for the draftsmanship part, like here's what I do. So like I'll just draw like a circle, right? And then I'll probably dictate where where like the midline is of the face. So in this case, like this kid's sleeping, right? I'm gonna add like this little cheek thing here, and then it's gonna be a little stylized because I'm roughing it out, right? Um, look here. I'm just gonna. Oh, this poor kid. What's gonna happen to him? No.
Someone was asking, would you say the Dutch angle is the precursor to the horror event situation?
Say that last part again.
Would you say that the Dutch angle is the precursor to the horror event situation?
To the horror event situation. Ah, okay, yes. It could be, yes. Yeah, because then if you want to keep playing that scene, right, where like the Dutch angle indicates something's happening and you want to play it out, yeah. Or it could be that, or it could be the moment. I think it's a matter of what your tastes are. There's no right or wrong. I think it's a matter of where you place it, is gonna help. But yeah, it could definitely be the precursor. It could definitely be like telling the audience, hey, like pay attention, something's gonna happen. So yeah, that's a great question. All right, this kid looks weird, but it's fine. I mean, a lot of kids look weird.
I think he looks great. He looks cute.
Okay, all right. I didn't have a chance to design him, but I think for now, like the big ears and whatnot, and then maybe he has a little saliva or whatever on it. There we go. Good. Perfect. Great. So now this is so in terms of just like editing, right? So here the main thing is this thing just entered this like the bottom of this kid's bed, right? And then now I flipped it to set up the context that we're in this kid's room, right? And then now we cut to this angle here, and this will motivate the cut because now I want to see like who is this kid in under this bed, right? And the movie Longlegs did this really well, where Micah Monroe's character is like always in the foreground, but then there's like a door open in the background. Like there's always this looming threat of like, is someone gonna peek through her like door? Like you know, is something gonna happen? Right? So here I'm choosing to frame it here. So that way, and again, I'm just making stuff up right now. Here, you just gotta look at drawer or whatever.
Miguel, you had another question.
Yes, go ahead.
Esmeralda was asking back when you did like the whole camera flipping like with the bed.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned that you didn't edit like the bed because the bed is like it's not connecting at the top of the frame. So they're asking, does that not matter, or is
Let me
it just
see.
because it's
Yeah.
a demo?
Yeah, let me see. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
so like that, like you
Oh,
didn't finish drawing the rest of it, so that does that not matter, or is it
is it the bed or the window?
like the whole, yeah, like the window with the curtains? You didn't
Yeah,
like
I think
draw the connection.
it was more for time. I would definitely like then draw it out. Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm picking and choosing my battles right now. But that's a great question. I think just for clarity, just I could have just done up, but
So if this
yeah.
was like a piece for a studio, you would want to finish the
Oh
entire.
yeah. Actually, let me just do that real quick. There we go. Um, yeah, so I do that. And again, a lot of times they're like, dude, it's rough. Like even I'll just keep it like that, and then I'll just do that. And then I could always fix it later. So in this case, like this is more of like this is like my first pass, and then once I like say if I were to put this in a portfolio, I would definitely clean it up. Yeah, no, but that's a great question. I would say eventually, yes. For now, I can keep it as is, but eventually I would clean it up. So yes, good question.
Ryan asks, Miguel, for storyboarding, when would you recommend using Photoshop and when would you recommend Storyboard Pro? I use mostly SB Pro, but I'm hearing some artists like Photoshop more, especially if they're boarding for instead of a TV series.
I will say that's a great question. I'll say now the debate is starting to kind of lean more into like, so before Photoshop was always considered to be like the feature like standard for boarding, but now actually it doesn't matter. Like people at the studio board in Storyboard Pro. So if you're a Storyboard Pro guy, like you can board it, at least at Disney, like very specifically, like people board it in Storyboard Pro. Because they're able to execute stuff at the feature level and with that software. So it doesn't matter. I think what matters now is just like what it's always mattered that like the storytelling of it has to really hit. But a lot of artists at Disney have used Server Pro in the past because they came from TV. And so they're making the argument like, hey, like we can use it to actually board and feature. So it doesn't matter. But I feel like those two are the standard, right? Well, Server Pro is for sure like used for TV a lot. Um, and then Photoshop is used for feature, but like that should like that's not gonna disqualify you from pursuing a feature project because a lot of I mean at least at Disney like they're willing to make the workflow they're willing to adapt the workflow for people who use Storyboard Pro.
So I'm asking for myself because I was wondering,
Uh-huh.
could you do Clip Studio Paint?
No, I haven't actually used that at all.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
but I mean, listen, if you're able to make it work, go for it. I'm not picky when it comes to like what I think should be used. Like people are using Procreate, right?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Well, because I
Well, not
heard,
not not in I don't know yet, like in like the professional setting, but like at least I know people like for their personal work they're boarding in
okay,
Procreate.
because
But
I know they would always say like it was the studio standard was Photoshop,
mhm.
but because they would want to like look through your layers and see what you were doing.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't know.
Interesting.
That's what
Ah,
was said in the panel one time.
gotcha. Okay. I mean, it depends because I only speak from like my experience like at Disney. So like other studios may have like a different like process for that, but in terms of checking your layers, that's not really like my experience in using Photoshop. It's just because A lot of people just use it. And also the software that we have, the proprietary software called Raconteur, it mainly works better with Photoshop. So that's pretty much why. But people using Storyboard Pro, like they're still able to like find a way to work around it. And so for anyone who doesn't know, so what I did is I made this layer called the onion skin layer. And that's when I added like this B cycle of like this kid snoring. And obviously I can clean this up better, but like he's snoring like that. So I can just do that. So like just to add a bit of life to it. So he's like, right. And then I'm gonna do that. And then okay, it's like the first scary bit, right? So I'm gonna utilize, oh yeah, here we go. All right. Thank you guys for sticking around, by the way. Like if you guys have to head out at any point, just feel free to do so. You know, because I know everyone's got different schedules, but thanks for hanging out with me for a bit. I really appreciate it a lot.
We still got 46 people
Yeah.
up in.
What? You guys are
Yeah,
nuts.
we're committed.
No, and we have more questions.
Yeah.
Please, hey, fire away. We're not,
Adrian Africa says, since you're working with relatively rough character designs when you're boarding, does it matter if you're consistently off or on model?
that's a great question. Oof, I'm trying to figure that out. So I think if anything, I'm trying to stay consistent with this rough. Um, yeah, because for demo purposes, like I just roughed this out. When I'm boarding personal work, and you can check this out in my portfolio. Like I actually do like a turnaround of like the characters, or even just like a character sheet of like the characters, and so I try to stick within that ballpark. Some things may feel different. Like some character expressions may like not feel like on model, but for like a CG production, like if you apply this to like the pipeline, not so much. But I would say like at least your shorthand should be somewhat consistent. So that way, when you're pitching it, like people understand like this is the character you're drawing. Um, and like that way there's no confusion. But it's a little flexible. Like if some of your character expressions are a little different, like you don't have to be super precise, but I think just at least for just for personal growth and like your shorthand and draftsmanship, I think just trying to be as consistent as possible is gonna be helpful. All right, so this poor guy, what's gonna happen to him? He's just
Someone's
sleeping.
asking, or Maria is asking, what's your cleanup process?
Ah, yes. So I can pretty much like I'm kind of doing it here. I'm just kind of cleaning him up, but like for example, oh my Lord. Wow, what am I doing? It's crazy. So scary. So scary. Whoa. And also when I'm drawing, I just talk to myself even at work. I'm like, whoa, wow, or I'm laughing, and then people at work are like, what are you doing, bro? That's just how I keep it fun. So try to make it fun for yourself. Actually, maybe this is where I'm gonna kind of go off. There we go. Nah,
Miguel
let's keep it
Cindy
there.
Perano just made it in here.
Oh, nice, Cindy. What is up?
We've been making it in here several times now.
Yeah, she has actually. She
Oh
popped
no.
out and then popped back in.
5 times.
Oh, so you were her mentor. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah. I forgot to mention that before. It was like through Rise Up Animation.
Okay,
That's how we got to know each other a bit. Yeah. Cindy's awesome. Cindy's so good.
she's great. Great artist and a great friend.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so for cleanup, I'll do this. So like if I really want to clean it up, I'll just do the onion skin layer again, and then I'll just like go in here and then
Armin is asking. Hi, Armin. Armin's asking, I've noticed Blender is being used by some artists recently for storyboarding. What's your opinion on Blender if you've used it?
I think Blender is awesome. I feel like in terms of like my personal pipeline, it would be cool to utilize it. I know Ray utilizes it on his production of Gremlins. And I know he does it for personal work. At least for Disney, we don't really use it, but I say you if I say using it is gonna be very helpful. Like I want to learn it as well, because if you're able to use the tool to try to execute sequences that maybe you weren't able to do so beforehand, I say go for it. I think Blender is awesome. It's free too. So being able to use it for your pipeline, I think would be very helpful. And I think there's a tutorials on it as well, like how to actually use Blender for story, because Blender is used for a lot of things, right? But actually being able to use it for storyboarding, there's like a lot of like cool videos now on it. Yeah, no, use it. Whatever tools that can help you, go for it. I think eventually there's gonna be discussions had by studios about like whether or not these can be implemented for work. Personally, for me, I think right now, like since I don't know it that much, it's hard to utilize it for my workflow. But like if eventually if I'm like, you know what, I can just make a quick model of something, then I'll use it for sure. Yeah, so see, I just cleaned it up here. So like I'll just take this rough because here like I just utilized it to kind of figure things out, and then here I kind of refine stuff a bit more. But that's like if you have time. Like you don't ever have to feel obligated to clean stuff up like crazy. But if you're able to, I would say go for it. I would say for like close-ups, right? And like shots where characters have like emotion and like there's a big important scene happening, I would say then you can clean up your shots, your faces a bit more. And even just a rule of thumb from an artist that I learned from at Disney where you can draw the face a little more rendered out and then the body can just be kind of more loose because everyone's gonna see the face, right? And so at least having a clear expression is gonna be helpful. So that's like my rule of thumb. And what I'm gonna do here is I hadn't done this before, but I'm just gonna add a actually I'll demonstrate this. So there's this these actions set from Tonico Pentoa where he has like these like automats and then you can just like fill it in. If you look up like his automats or like his like fills, he has them available on his Patreon. So you can just purchase those and they're really cheap. So I'm just going to use that. You see how like I quickly just I can add hang on. Let me see what I can add. Yeah, see like I can add like these cool like shadows and stuff like easily, right? So that's that, right? And again, like since I decided this last minute, I'm just gonna use that. And even if like
Oh my
even if the
God.
fill
Miguel, real quick, could you say the name
Yes.
of the artist or type it in the chat?
Tonico, yes, let me do that real quick. Tonico, and you guys, oh my God, it's 99 plus messages. That's crazy. Whoa, the chat's blown up. Hey,
Yeah,
chat, what do you want? What do
We're
you want to draw
talking
next,
about
chat?
you.
All
I'm gonna
good.
be like a nice streamer. Hey, chat, what do you want? What do you want to do next, chat? You want me to do a backflip right now, chat?
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Nico.
He has a
Thank
YouTube channel
you.
also. He's great, and he has a video on that specific tool set that he created. All right, cool. And so I did that.
And you
Sorry,
said
Adela,
go
was there
back.
another question? Um,
That was the question.
oh, it's Taniko? Okay, sorry. All right, cool. So scary. All right, cool. So now, so like I don't have to do a single drawing here. I just did this one.
Oh,
And so, yeah. Oh my Lord. Hang on, I'm gonna do automat. Perfect. I'm gonna darken.
that was amazing. I'm
What?
just
Stop.
amazed. No, I'm just how quickly you do things is really awesome.
Well, it's just you know, you just do a bunch of sequences and you try to figure stuff out. It's all trial and error. Like there's so many panels and like thumbnails that are just really bad, but they needed to be just for me to kind of figure things out. And then yeah, just over time, I just start to figure things out about design and whatnot. And it's just through me just looking on Instagram and just like finding cool design and principles and through the draftsmanship of it. Like life drawing is really good. I go to life drawing and like I try to just figure out like the simple anatomy of things and then I can tie it into the character. Okay, cool. So this is where the fun stuff happens. Actually, let me add I'm just gonna add a personal grading here. There we go. Hang on. Cool.
Sophie
that.
asked, "Hi, Miguel. I had a question about navigating personal projects. I was just wondering what makes a good sequence. And is it okay to have 1 billion boards in a first rough draft / beat board, or is it better to keep it more compact?"
It's how, if you're just trying to figure out the story, just do it however you want. I think eventually, like once you try to actually like put it into like a final like package, right, for your portfolio, I would say for a sequence, try to keep it at around like 150 to at max 300 panels. So, but on the first go, yes, board it out however you want, and then you can start trimming it. But I highly suggest trimming it just because I have this, I'm guilty of boarding so much. I mean, again, as long as like the length of it plays to like maybe one like 2 to 3 minutes, that's fine. But again, there's an exception to that rule, or not that rule, that the suggestion where sometimes if you're boarding something that's like 500 panels, go for it. Like it does not matter as long as you tell a whole cohesive story. Don't leave the story on a cliffhanger, because then people are like, just have it be a whole thing, because you're trying to showcase to people your storytelling sensibilities. So having like an act 1, act 2, and act 3 to your story is going to help a lot. So just having it be complete is good. But on the first go around, like if it's long, just look at it, and if it needs to be trimmed, that's part of the editing process. So yeah, I would say like feel free to use your process however you want, whatever works for you. Because again, part of it too is like you want the process to feel organic for you. So you can't be creative if you're always like so rigid on like certain things you have to do. Just whatever you feel like generates the most creative decisions from you, just go with it. Yeah, so hopefully that helps. So anyway, so I drew him out like this, but what I'm gonna try to do is, again, restraint, right? I'm gonna duplicate this, I'm gonna merge it, and then I'm gonna make sure that he's filter. There we go. There we go. Okay, cool. So that looks worse in a good way. Where actually, let me make him bigger. Oh no, not one. Wait. There we go.
Imigo
Cool.
Carla's asking, I was told once that a 9-minute animatic can become 15 minutes once finally animated. Is this true? Can the length from boards to animation change so much?
Ooh, that's a good question. From 9 to 15, I don't know about that. Maybe. I think it just depends on like if the animation plays differently to the boards, maybe, but I don't know if it plays, I don't know if it increases the length that much. Usually with the storyboard, it plays pretty tight to the animation plays pretty tight to the storyboards. I don't, unless like there's like a completely new sequence in there, that's what I feel like prompts a sequence to be that long, but or the animation to blow up the initial runtime. But if anything, it might increase it by like a little bit, but I don't think it should increase it by that much. Because the storyboards are meant to be indicative of what the animation is going to be, pretty tight. So that's only unless you're actually just like, oh hey, I'm adding 6 more minutes to it. It should be pretty tight. So if whoever, I don't know, it shouldn't increase it that much. It should be pretty tight because it's supposed to be like an indicate, like for example, in like a in the Disney setting, right? If you're like, we're at 90 minutes, wait a second, the animation now it's 96. What's going on? It should be pretty tight. So it has to, then it falls into editing to make sure that uh that like nothing, that the runtime doesn't go crazy. It shouldn't. Hopefully that helps.
Ryan asks, on the subject of personal projects, are there any independent films you created that you're willing to share?
Yeah. So I'll say first and foremost, like I'm not so much an animator, but I do eventually want to do like make my own short films and stuff. So, but in terms of films, on my website, I have some like animatics that I made. Um, the popular one being the Nacho Libre one. I think you should check that one out. If it gets animated, who knows? Maybe. But I have done it. So if you just type in my name.com, that's my website, and then you can just watch your animatics. And I did a Batman one too, but like in terms of like actual like films and stuff, that Nacho Libre one is the big one that I have. which is the one that got me actually like noticed by people at Disney. Was actually that, which is cool because that was a really dumb one that I did, but because it kind of came from the heart. Uh, that's why like, oh, that's cool. So that's why I say like just like when you're boarding something, just like let your voice be big on it. Like don't try to cater your voice to whatever a recruiter, whatever the studio wants. Just board the stories you want. Don't just be like, well, Cartoon Network likes this or they like this. Like just board whatever, and then the style and genre of it, like you can learn it on the job. All
Thank
right.
you for
So,
saying.
oh, good. I'm glad.
Cindy has a question. Would you also suggest adding animatics into a board portfolio or just having that in a separate tab in a portfolio just to showcase the boards in movement?
That's a great question. I think that's been a hotly debated topic because I know there's some artists who like don't advocate for it and some who do. Having it on a different tab is good. Because it's less clutter, but also I think it just helps. Like I had it on my portfolio and it didn't really affect me. Like I only speak for myself, right? In my experience. I personally like it because then like at least I can see how the story plays out as opposed to like flipping through it. Yeah, just having it on a separate tab is helpful. That way it separates it. Because I think not having it, I don't know. I feel like there's a benefit to it, I think. Because then there's the discussion of like it's more for editing, but that's just my own opinion. It's not right or wrong, but it's helped me. Like I don't think it's deterred me from my opportunities. Like nobody's brought up, hey dude, I think you should get rid of the animatics, man. If anything, they're like I have my storyboard set up as like the first thing, and then animatics are kind of like the second thing. So I think having it categorized like that will help. Um, I don't know. I just like I don't know. I like animatics, so like having them will help, but just don't have them as like the first thing to see. I think have them like as like the second or third thing. Always have your storyboards like in like a speaker deck slideshow format because that's the standard for sure. All right. And then at 1:30, I'll probably call it. I got most of the way there, but at least you guys kind of get the idea of like what I'm trying to do. Right?
It
Oh my
So
God.
looks
like
so cool. Oh my God.
so there's that.
Yeah,
And
I
then
want to record
here
it on my phone too, but
I
it's
can also send it. Oh, you want to record it? Go for it. I can
on my phone, yeah, so I can
yeah.
post it on the gram for
All right,
us.
cool. All right.
Dean asked in your work experience, are you responsible for timing out your own animatic, or is that usually a separate job?
That's a great question.
Hold on, record on my phone. Mhm.
Oh, for sure. All right, let me set it up again. All right, hang on. Whoa, Tenet. All right, okay. Do
Ready.
that. And then spins. Oops. And then snoring and then oh, and then
Bob.
and then here I'm just gonna go quick and then maybe like I
Wow.
drew these like really long fingers on this guy. So dude's just like yeah. But to answer your question, so in TV animation, I remember on specific shows, like especially ones that utilize Storyboard Pro, um, yeah, like the artist would be in charge of timing stuff, which I feel like there there should be pushback on it because that should be the job of the editor, but also too it depends on the artist. Sometimes artists like to time stuff out because they feel in control. It all depends. But at least for me at the studio, I kind of time it out. There's the software allows us to kind of time it out very easily. So we do what's called recorded pitches, meaning that like once we pitch our sequence and it's good to go, that's just a reference. That's just have edit as just have edit like use that as a reference, you know. And the software thankfully allows us to like basically we just go through like our panels one by one, but we record it, right? And then each panel is labeled a different frame count. So in a way we time it, but it's actually fairly easy. It's like just pitching it again. Like it's not like we have to do like this like oh we have to like stretch out the length of a panel. It's just like boom, boom, boom. We just wait a couple seconds and then just boom, 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 just go through the panels. Some panels go quicker than others, and that's how we time it. So at least for me, I have no complaints there. But sometimes, yeah, like that's like an extra thing that's asked of artists, and I don't think that should be the case because we literally are trying to think of the whole episode. We're trying to think of the whole dang enchilada. Like we have to figure everything out, and then on top of that, oh, now we have to edit, and also we have to attempt sound. It's it's a lot. It's a lot of work. But sometimes, yeah, we'd have to. If that's a requirement. But little by little, it's like, can you push back on that? That's like not necessarily fair. So yeah, because it's just job creep. Like you just there's a whole debate, there's a whole discussion in terms of like just like the practices of studios and whatnot. But yeah, we have to, but it'd be nice if we didn't. But at least when I do at Disney, it's easy. So it's I have no complaints about it. All right, here we go. So yeah. So again, and what's great is that like with the visibility option, I don't have to redraw this at all. Yeah. Oh God, what's gonna happen to this kid? This poor kid.
Poor guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, like, oh no. I like to go back. So usually I like to do is I like to go back just to make sure the flow of it kind of works. This actually worked not too bad. Yeah, it's like whoosh, and then cut shoe, hong shoe, and then here's where I was gonna have him like wake up. Yeah, let's see. He's like, y'all keep it rough. And then I'll be like, oh.
Yeah, you're leaving us on a cliffhanger.
I know I said not to do that, but I mean this itself is like a whole scene in of itself. This is like the intro to it. But at least just utilizing the elements of it that I described. Yeah, so he wakes up. Cool. And I could just hide. I'll just hide this layer. Yeah. Actually, no, I'll just make sure I redraw it. I like redrawing sometimes, like the expressions, because then it helps to like give more life to it, as opposed to like just duplicating it, only like skewing things. For certain things, it's okay, but I personally like to kind of redraw it. Like it kind of adds like this extra bit of life to it. Yeah. So
Oh,
actually, oh, that's why. I'm just gonna make sure that stays down. There we go. And I'll refresh. And then let's see. What did I draw? So then he'll like just like what, yeah, there we go. And then the kid will, and then it's gonna be really rough. This is where like sometimes it just gets really, really rough, and then he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. And I'll turn that off.
oh my God.
And then I'm gonna cheat here. And then I'm just gonna completely get rid of this guy. I'll figure out how to transition it later, but at least for now, my intent is to, as he gets up, the creature just disappears entirely. Hopefully nobody.
That's someone's scared. Someone
That's-
yelling.
That's my brother. No, he's just stretching. I think he thought this thing would be over by now. I'm like, no, we're doing an encore right now. People are still, who's still in the chat? We're still here.
Chat.
Thank you guys so much again. Again, it's a Sunday, so I appreciate I think what I'm gonna try to do is this. I think just to make it creepier, I'm just gonna have him like he just like hides or something. Yeah, there you go.
He's creepy.
There you go. So then he's gone, and then I'm just gonna move this down because I want like this ease. This is a nice little trick too, where it's like you just tilt everything down a bit, right? Yeah, Yeah, so like this adds this smoothness to it in a weird way, right? So instead of it being like don't, it's like that, right? And then here, and this is pretty much like the speed I go at with importing easily. Right, so he's just like, oh, maybe just sweats a bit more. And again, the hair is whatever, it's fine, right? And then maybe I just add another cycle. He's like, and then he looks, right? He turns, and then right, he looks perfect, good. He's like, huh, and then this is where we cut to a shot that I feel like really indicates how this kid's feeling. So, and I think some of you guys probably might know. So now we cut to this like wide shot. And this is where the perspective comes in. So like here, I'm just trying to like navigate in my head, right? Like since this is gonna be a top-down view, right? I'm just trying to make sure that this fits. And also too, there's a website called sketchfab.com. I will send it in the chat later. Sketchfab. It's a really great resource because it's like a 3D model viewer, and you're able to view like 3D models, and you can just get snapshots of that as well. It's awesome. It's so good. But I think just having an indication, right? And it's not perfect. I will definitely fix this, but this is just enough for like to show the director, hey, like this is my intent. Perspective's not perfect, but it does not matter. I think it's just there just to give the idea of what I'm trying to do. Okay, so that's the intent. And again, the kid, I'm just literally like, oh. And again, it's not perfect, but it's enough for now. And then this is where I feel like the one time you could shade in stuff. Oh no, that's not right. There we go. All right, cool. I'll just start that. And again, it's sometimes the drawings just look like that. That's okay. Right? And then right, and then maybe there's like another drawing of him like looking around. And I chose this shot because this just shows how small he is, like literally and like narratively. This kid's like not in control at all. Like this kid is like at the mercy of this creature right now. So that's why I chose this shot. This is where I feel like when you try to think of the emotion of the character, that's how it's gonna that's what's gonna help dictate your shots. Yeah, so here you look around, right? And he's looking this way, and so screen direction is still consistent because he's still looking that way. Right? He's looking, and he looks back. Right? So he's looking, and then he looks back. And then thanks for sticking around. We're almost there.
Miguel, I know we're almost done, but did you talk about the draftmanship yet?
Maybe a little bit. So I can do it here. So I'm trying to think of like examples. Studying character model sheets is good. Like there's this website called Character Design Reference. And I think it's good to really just think about like the face like this, where like you're drawing the head, right? And then here you're trying to figure out like where you're looking. So even just doing like a like that, where this will help kind of indicate the direction that like your character is facing. Just even starting off like that is helpful. And then from there you can start to like piece together like the nose, right? And then from there once you have that, then you start to break down like the face. Tuesday Tips has a great page on this, so I highly recommend looking at that, the Grizz and Norm book. So like once you start to do that, oh wow, this is actually like not bad. Holy smokes. Right? Or once you start to distill it.
Okay,
Ah.
we do have, I think this is gonna be our last question, but this is a really,
Okay.
I think this
I
is a
think
really
it's a
interesting
good,
question.
I think it's a good question to end it on.
Yeah, it's a really good question to end it on. Carolina
Yeah.
is asking, what is it like being a Chicano artist in the industry? Did I say it right?
Yes. No,
Okay.
beautiful. Thank you.
Has there been a situation where your background has been helpful in your work or exploring an idea with your team?
That's wow, that question has some
Really great
amazing
question.
timing to it. It does. I think it may not help specifically in terms of the story, but actually on the project I'm on right now, it does help. I think what it does is just, I think it's nice to have a different voice, and it's nice to have a different take on things because there's people on a crew who come from very different backgrounds, and I think having a Chicano background or any sort of um background that involves like, being of a different culture and whatnot, it benefits because then you never know if like, hey, we need a character who is Latino or is that, what questions like, then they'll be like, hey, like, I'm curious, like, what is your take on this? It does help. And I think it just helps having voices, right? Because then you just provide a different view of things that help a different character too. So I think that's a very good question. And I think if anything, like you then I feel like that's what's got me the opportunities is the fact that like, oh, this guy's like telling these different stories, and it just provides this breath of fresh air. And the more and more voices that are being told, or the more voices are being heard and the stories are being told, I feel like then you start to, I don't know, it just provides a different perspective on things, and it just elevates a conversation even more. Where now it's like, oh, let me hear about your experience. Oh no, my experience is a little different, and it just enriches it. So it's helped me personally a lot because then on top of that, then there's people in the studio who are also Latino or Latinx who are of different cultures, right? Like not just Mexican or other cultures, right? So it just helps to know that you're visible and you're like, hey, I'm me, right? I'm here to provide and enrich the conversation and help to enrich our films hopefully a bit more. So um, if anything, just don't be afraid to just share your voice and like say, I am of this culture, like I represent this culture proudly, and I want to just be able to share an opinion, right? And sometimes, with the story, they're not going to agree, but it just helps to enrich people and be like, wow, this person is Mexican or Chicano, like that's cool. Like that gives me like a tent pole for what to strive towards, or like, hey, this guy knows a lot about this. Why don't you ask him? It just helps. It just helps to be diverse. Like it helps everybody because then you hear so many different avenues and different takes, right? Whether people agree or disagree on things, like it just helps.
That was
Yeah.
beautiful.
So,
Yeah,
oh,
thank you. That was beautiful.
of course.
Beautiful
And
question,
yeah,
beautiful answer.
cool. I think I'll end it there because you guys have been sticking around for like an hour 40. So, and I
Thank-
think pretty much I hit the points that I wanted to. So just to go back on
Yeah, so I can
um
record it again on my phone.
yeah. So pretty much this is what we got, right? Hopefully I was able to utilize what I had mentioned before, and hopefully this is helpful for you guys just to, and there's other conversations to be had about pacing and whatnot, but hopefully this helps, right? So this entity, right? That's the setup, right? And then the motivation to have it upside down, the tension and the pacing of it's gonna be different, right? Then you show the kid sleeping. That's a new piece of information. This little boy. And right, and then we show the creature a little bit, right? And the creature's about to do something. And the kid wakes up, is like, ah. And then it's like, ah, ah. He looks, right? Looks back. And then what I wanted to do eventually, what the heck is this? Eventually I wanted to do is then it'll cut back to like a similar shot, like a closer shot of him, and then he's gonna spot the creature in the corner, like just like looming, waiting. So pretty much the reveal is that this is the creature's POV. So I wanted to set that up
Ah.
eventually, where it turns out this isn't just a like the camera just being placed on there. This is literally what the creature is saying right now, and that's what makes it more terrifying, hopefully. So
Mm.
so that's it, you guys. Just thank you so much. I know we went way over time, but I think if anything, I like just being flexible and just being like, hey, you know what? Let's stick around for a bit, you know? And
Thank you so
hopefully
much
it's
for doing
helpful.
that. It was
Yeah,
super cool. I'm glad you stuck around longer, and I hope everyone that stayed this long is super inspired by Miguel's work. And
for
oh, do you
sure.
want to drop your socials, and or if anyone
Yes.
that's attending, can they reach out to you like an email or anything? If
Oh, absolutely. Don't listen. You guys probably hopefully got this vibe. I'm really chill. Like I don't care. Like reach out to me via email or message me just to remind me, like just say that you attended the, this talk, and then I'm more than happy to chat. That's because again, like I was you guys years ago, right? And it's like I wish I had somebody personally to reach out to be like, hey, uh, can you check this? Is this even good? So I'm more than happy to do that. In terms of portfolio reviews, I will say because I've been getting more and more people reaching out, I think my bandwidth is a little thin. So I think just if you just have questions regarding like just any general advice, I think would be recommended because I used to do that where I would go over people's portfolios, but it's become too much just because more people have been asking. So I apologize for that. Hopefully I can have like maybe like a session or something where I can do that. But I think just any questions or if like, hey, even like just a Zoom chat, I don't mind either. So whatever you guys want, I'm here to help. So yeah.
thank you
But
so
yeah,
much.
that's my Instagram and did I just literally just go to Instagram.com?
Yes.
That's what I do to
I'm
get
For
so
mine.
no no
Oh,
no
you did
no.
put Instagram.com in the
Ignore
chat.
that. There you go.
And
Hang on. There it is.
people actually hearted it, you know.
Oh, well, I'm gonna delete it. There you go.
They're like,
There's
yeah,
my Instagram.
yeah.
No, no, screw them.
Oh,
Anyway, oh, and then let me just quickly, I'm just gonna spam the chat, with the Sketchfab one. This is also really great too. Cool. There we go. Sketchfab is awesome as well. Cool. Perfect. Yeah, so if anyone has questions, just feel free to DM me. Okay? Don't be afraid. And I will keep tabs on who is messaging me. I will try to make a list. Uh, yeah. Oh, and then the Discord too. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I can. Well, I don't know how that works, but I think maybe just it's easier for me just to just message me on Instagram, just so you don't spam the Discord. But that's it. Was there anything else, you guys? I think I'm good. I think I sent everything that um I had to say, but just want to say thank you. Thank you guys for sticking around. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. I hope you guys just enjoy the rest of your Sunday. There's still time. Go be free. Go do things.
Thank you so
11,
much, everyone. Thank you,
11 o'clock.
Miguel.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Enjoy the
Thank
rest
you
of your Sunday.
guys. Keep creating, you guys. I know it's crazy out there, but just keep creating. And then just keep looking out for each other. This community right here is really great just to kind of continue to uplift, right? Like we'll bounce back. It's tough out there, but I think just continue to create and spreading your voice out there is gonna be very helpful, you know. And then just lean into each other during the storm because right now it's a big one. So hopefully once things die down, then we can just keep going. So just wanted to say that as a way of hopefully pushing you guys
Thank you.
further.
Thank you.
Awesome. And bye, Maria. I see you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you so much.
I'm not gonna end it yet because I'm gonna test out the recording thing so y'all can leave.
Cool. Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Miguel. I'm so glad to have met you, and I will definitely reach out to you too. Like,
Oh, yeah, if anything else comes up, like say if there's a consensus on like a specific thing you guys want to talk about. Obviously, of course, like you guys want to focus on different disciplines, but I'm more than happy to then like talk about something else or something specific. I'm here. I just want to be able to be a resource to you guys.
Thank you so much. I will definitely keep that in mind.
stop
Sure. But
recording.
no pressure too. I'm just saying I'm available. But this was awesome. You guys are awesome for doing this, and like just seeing all these people here is just really cool to see that.
This is a really big turnout.
I know, it's crazy. Ooh.
Keep growing. It's crazy.
Yeah, we had
Oh.
over 100 signups. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, dude, that's nuts. That's so
Yeah.
great though. I didn't mention this in the closing remarks, but I was gonna say I would like to finish this and then share it at some point just to kind
Oh,
of show people.
definitely.
But
Yeah.
that's later.
Yeah, maybe we can like put it as an Instagram post or something, like you share the video.
I can edit it too, also,
Well,
just so
yeah,
you can see
however you
how it
want.
plays out.
Yeah,
Cool.
we'll find a way.
Yeah, that'd
Awesome.
be so cool.
Awesome. All right, well, is this it? Is this goodbye? Do we have to
No,
leave?
I think so. I do want to say though that we have people who are joining us from other countries like Peru and Chile in here.
No
So
way.
it was
Oh, I
really
didn't know that.
Yeah, like I know Gracia is in Peru. I'm from Peru and I'm in Paris though. But like,
Oh,
yeah, there are a lot of people who are kind of worldwide here, which is really
wow.
so
Well,
UK, Germany,
bonjour, hola.
Colombia.
Thank you guys for joining.
Wish I knew that. I thought it was just, well, I knew you were in Paris, Adela, but I thought everyone else was like either LA or New York.
Oh, we're global.
I see
Whoa.
we're global now. That's awesome.
Germany too. Wow,
Yeah,
qué
that's
increíble.
awesome.
Wow, that's awesome. This is so great. No, this is so good. This is
Well,
what
now
this is
we
what
gotta
yeah.
do our intros. We gotta be like, say where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's
We got to do that
that's
again.
true.
We're at that level now.
Yeah, no, this is so great. The reach you guys have had. This is incredible. This is so cool. All right, well, I'm gonna dip now, but I say this is such a pleasure. Eric, thank you so much for hitting me up. This was
Yeah.
awesome. This is such a highlight. This is really good. I
No,
really
thank
enjoyed it.
you. Thank you for sacrificing your time and being willing to do, and so flexible too. I
Oh no,
really
of course.
appreciate it.
Nah, dude, listen, anything to help enrich the conversation and just, motivate people, that's what I'm here for. So.
Yeah, especially during these times, I think it's really vital.
I know. It's just nice just to kind of talk creative stuff, right? And then just be like, hey, here's hopefully a thing that can help.
Yeah,
Go
definitely.
for it now. Yeah.
Thank you, Miguel.
Yeah, thank
Thank you guys. All right. Take care,
All
everyone.
right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys for joining. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Stop recording. Stop.